Year 1880. You roll into town, wiped out after days on the road, covered in dust, without a penny to spare. You push through those swinging doors and step into a loud saloon. Smoke, loud laughter, cards slapping the table. In your pocket, a single crumpled dollar. Doesn't seem like much, right? Well, that dollar went a lot farther than you'd think. You could drink, eat, and still have change left over. Let's find out exactly what it could buy. Number 1. In the Old West, the whiskey cowboys drank was nothing like what you'd find on a shelf today. Most saloons served a mix the owners made themselves in the back of the place, using pure alcohol mixed with tobacco, pepper, and even kerosene to give it color and flavor. People called it rot gut because it literally tore up the stomach of whoever drank it. And the craziest part is the price. A shot cost between 5 and 10 cents. That means with just $1 in his pocket, a cowboy could knock back 10 to 20 shots in a single night. To give you an idea, $1 back then was worth about $30 today. So basically, for less than what you pay for a coffee at Starbucks, these guys got hammered on a liquid that was probably more dangerous than life in the West itself. Number 2. With $1 in his pocket, a cowboy could drink beer all night. A glass cost only 5 cents in saloons, so he could get hammered on 20 glasses without spending more than a single bill. But don't expect the cold beer you drink today. Back then, there was no refrigeration, so the drink came warm and with a pretty different taste than what we know. In more isolated towns, saloon owners would mix the beer with river water to stretch the barrel. And nobody complained, because it was that or nothing. The wild part is that a lot of workers would blow their entire week's pay on booze in a single night. Saloons were the center of social life in the Old West, where deals got made, poker got played, and not rarely, fights started that ended in gunfire. All of that for the price of 5 cents a glass. Number 3. In towns like Dodge City and Tombstone, saloons had poker and faro tables running day and night. With $1, you could buy enough chips to sit down and play several hands. The minimum bet was usually 10 cents, so your dollar could keep you at the table for quite a while. Faro was the most popular game in the Old West, way more than poker, and dealers often cheated using marked decks. Cowboys, miners, and even sheriffs sat side by side at these tables. A lucky guy could turn that dollar into 5 or 10 in a good night. But most walked out with empty pockets. The funny thing is, a lot of famous shootouts started exactly because of disputes at these gambling tables when someone accused the other of cheating. Doc Holliday, for example, made more money playing cards than practicing dentistry. $1 could be the start of a fortune or the beginning of a serious fight. Number 4. In the Old West, $1 had a kind of power most people today can't even imagine. In the saloons spread through mining towns, there were the so-called hurdy-gurdy girls. These women worked by dancing with the men who showed up worn out after weeks of panning for gold or driving cattle. The setup was simple. You paid 25 cents and you got a dance. With a single dollar, a guy could get 4 rounds on the dance floor. But here's the detail a lot of people don't know. After each dance, the girl would take her partner straight to the bar to buy a drink. That's how the saloon really made its money. The owners kept a cut of what the girls earned and still made profit on the whiskey. For a lot of cowboys and miners who'd been isolated for months, that moment was the only female company they knew. $1 didn't buy just a dance. It bought a rare moment of normal life in a brutal world. Number 5. In the Old West, a cigar wasn't a luxury. It was part of everyday life. Cowboys, poker players, sheriffs, everybody smoked. A regular cigar cost between 10 and 15 cents. That means with just $1, a guy could buy 6 to 10 cigars at once. And look, back then, offering someone a cigar was almost like shaking their hand. It was a sign of respect, a deal being done, or just good company. In saloons, It was common to see men sitting around a table, smoking while they played cards or worked out cattle and land deals. Popular brands came in wooden boxes right from the counter at the general store. The cheapest ones were made with local tobacco, while the ones imported from Cuba could cost a lot more. But for the average working man, those 10 cents bought one of the few affordable pleasures after a long day of work. $1, 10 cigars, and a whole week's worth of moments of peace. Number 6. In the Old West, chewing tobacco was almost a kind of social currency. For just 10 cents, you could buy a pack. So with $1, you could grab 10 packs and stay stocked for weeks. Cowboys chewed during long cattle drives because they couldn't light a cigarette near the herd, since a spark could set off a stampede. In saloons, brass spittoons were scattered around the floor, but most guys missed on purpose. It got so nasty that some towns even started handing out fines for spitting on the floor. The funny thing is, experienced chewers could hit the spittoon from more than 2 meters away, and it even turned into a bar bet. Brands like Lorillard and Liggett dominated the market, and a lot of men started chewing as teenagers. It was cheap, addictive, and didn't need matches. The perfect combo for life on the frontier. Number 7. In Old West saloons, there was a business trick that still sounds too good to be true today. You paid $1 for whiskey or beer and got access to a table loaded with food at no extra cost. Pickles, hard-boiled eggs, sausages, bread, and sometimes even salted meat were laid out at the bar. Saloon owners called it the free lunch. But there was nothing free about it. The food was purposely seasoned with a lot of salt. The more salt you ate, the thirstier you got. The thirstier you got, the more drinks you ordered. And every new glass meant more cents leaving your pocket. It was pure marketing before anyone even invented that word. A lot of workers came in for lunch with $1 and walked out at night without a cent. The strategy worked so well it spread across almost the entire American territory. That free lunch ended up being pretty expensive in the end. Number 8. After weeks on the trail eating dust and sleeping on the ground, a hot bath was almost a miracle. In Old West towns, bathhouses were stuck onto saloons or barber shops. You paid 25 cents and got a tub of hot water, a piece of soap, and about 15 minutes of peace. With $1, you could take 4 baths, which was a big luxury. Most cowboys went months without really washing up. The water was heated on a wood stove, and a lot of times several customers used the same tub without changing the water. Whoever paid more went first and got the clean water. The last ones bathed in a dark soup. Nobody wants to imagine. In Dodge City and Tombstone, these bathhouses packed out when cattle drives came in. Cowboys spent part of their pay there before they even hit the saloon. It was the first sign of civilization after weeks in the middle of nowhere. Number 9. In the 1870s, if you rolled into an Old West town after days on the road, a hotel room was nothing like what we picture today. For 50 cents a night, you bought a bed in a shared bunk room with strangers. That means with $1, you could sleep for 2 nights. But don't expect comfort. These were cramped rooms with beds lined up side by side, sheets that were rarely changed, and company you didn't get to choose. Cowboys, miners, gamblers, and even fugitives shared the same space. Theft was so common that a lot of people slept with their boots hugged to their chest. In towns like Tombstone and Dodge City, these bunk rooms were packed during the busy seasons. And the worst part is that even if you paid, you weren't guaranteed a whole bed. On crowded nights, owners would sell the same mattress to 2 strangers to share. $1 bought you rest, but peace of mind was a whole different story. Number 10. In Old West saloons, the bartender was one of the most influential guys in town. He knew who owed who was carrying a gun, and who was looking for trouble. And like any man with influence, he had his price. For just 25 cents, a bartender could conveniently forget that you still owed a tab from last week. Or he could fill your glass with the good whiskey instead of that cheap rot gut that burned your throat. With a whole dollar, you could lock in 4 of those favors over the course of the night. That meant better drinks, less debt, and someone keeping an eye out in case some stranger decided to start something with you. In a place where an argument at the bar could end in gunfire, having the bartender on your side wasn't a luxury, it was a matter of survival. And the craziest part is that those 25 cents worked better than any handshake. Number 11. In the Old West, the lottery wasn't a government thing. The ones running the drawings were saloon owners, and a ticket cost only 10 cents. That means with a single dollar, you could buy 10 chances to change your life. The prizes varied a lot. It could be money, a horse, a plot of land, or even a gun. In towns like Dodge City and Tombstone, these drawings packed the saloons on Saturday nights. The owners knew that while a guy waited for the result, he'd drink, play cards, and spend more. It was a business strategy. A lot of workers making between $25 and $40 a month saw those tickets as their only hope of landing something big. And here's a detail not many people know. A good part of those lotteries was rigged. The top prize almost always ended up with someone connected to the saloon owner. Even so, the line to buy tickets never got any shorter. Number 12. In the Old West, a dollar could buy 4 bottles of these so-called patent medicines that promised to cure just about anything. Toothaches, fever, sadness, even baldness. The secret nobody wanted to admit was simple. Most of these elixirs had more alcohol than cheap whiskey. Some were over 40%. Some bottles had opium and mercury, all sold legally, no prescription, no warning. Traveling salesmen would set up a stage right in the middle of town, put on shows with music and tricks to draw a crowd. It worked so well that a lot of people got addicted without even knowing why. Kids took these syrups to sleep better. Only in 1906, when the federal government passed the first food and drug law, did this party end. Until then, your dollar got you 4 doses of what was basically booze dressed up as medicine, and people bought it thinking it was science. Number 13, 5 cents. That's what a newspaper cost in the Old West. With a single dollar, you could take home 20 issues. Sounds like nothing, but think about it. In a time with no radio and no telegraph in most towns, the newspaper was your only window to the world. That's how a farmer in Texas found out what was happening in Washington. A lot of those papers were basically one-man operations, with a hand press and ink that smeared all over your fingers. Editors were powerful figures in small towns. They decided what counted as news and could make or break anyone's reputation. It wasn't rare for an editor to get shot because of what he printed. In Tombstone, the epitaph covered the gunfight at the OK Corral in 881 and is still running today. A dollar didn't just buy paper and ink, it bought power, influence, and sometimes trouble. Number 14. In the Old West, a dollar bought 10 revolver cartridges. That doesn't sound like much, but think about it. 10 shots could be the difference between living and dying. The cartridges cost around 10 cents each, and most cowboys carried at most 6 in the cylinder. So with a dollar, you had almost 2 full reloads. The interesting thing is, a lot of people out west didn't waste ammo like you see in the movies. Bullets were expensive for anyone making $1 a day. A rancher thought twice before pulling the trigger because every shot represented a piece of his paycheck. In towns like Dodge City and Tombstone, stores sold single cartridges right at the counter, the same way we buy batteries today. And there's more. A lot of men would rather spend that dollar on ammo than on food, because without protection, you wouldn't survive to eat the next day. Number 15. In the Old West, a new hat cost between $2 and $5, which was way too expensive for most regular working folks. But in the little shops attached to saloons and general stores, you could find used, patched-up hats for just 50 cents. With $1, you could buy two and still pick the less beat-up one. It wasn't about vanity, it was pure survival. Without a hat in the Arizona desert or on the Texas plains, the sun would take you down in a few hours. Heat stroke killed more people than revolver bullets, and that's not an exaggeration. Cowboys knew that and treated a hat like a must-have, not an accessory. A lot of those patched hats had a story. They got passed from owner to owner, each stitch telling a different journey. It was the kind of purchase nobody thought twice about making. Number 16. In the Old West, a new pair of boots cost between $5 and $8, which was money a lot of cowboys simply didn't have. That's why the used boot market was huge. For just 25 cents, you could walk away with a patched-up pair that could still handle plenty of miles. With $1 in your pocket, you could buy 4 pairs and swap them out as each one started to give out. Shoemakers in small towns made more money fixing than selling new footwear. They nailed on soles, stitched torn leather, and reinforced boot shafts with scraps. A simple repair ran 10 cents. The strange part is that a lot of those used boots came from men who died in shootouts or from disease. Nobody asked where they came from. If they fit and held up for the walk, the deal was done. Out west, being practical mattered more than any kind of ceremony. Number 17. In the Old West, a simple knife cost around 15 cents. That means with just $1 in your pocket, a guy could buy 6 or even 7 knives at once. Sounds over the top, but it makes total sense when you understand the context. A knife was the most essential tool on the frontier, used to cut rope, prep food, clean an animal hide, and even defend yourself in a tight situation. We're not talking about fancy knives with an ornate handle. Those cost a lot more. These were basic carbon steel blades with a wooden handle, sold in bulk at any general store. A lot of people bought several because they broke or got lost easily in the heavy day-to-day work. A cowboy without a knife was like a carpenter without a hammer. You just couldn't get anything done. Today, a decent knife costs at least about $30, which shows how completely buying power has changed. Number 18. In the 1870s, a lasso rope cost about 20 cents at Old West supply stores. With a single dollar, you could take 5 home. Sounds cheap, but think about it. Without that rope, a cowboy simply couldn't work. It's what you used to break wild cattle, tie a horse to a post, and secure a load on a wagon. Some cowboys slept with the lasso looped over their shoulder because losing one out on the trail meant serious trouble. The ropes were made from rawhide or hand-twisted sisal fiber, and every cowboy had his own way of braiding. A good roper was respected as much as a good shooter. The interesting part is that a lot of ranches docked the cost of ropes from a hired hand's pay. So even though it was cheap, it still hit the wallet of someone making $1 a day. Number 19. In towns like Dodge City and Tombstone, $1 bought a lot more than whiskey. In the saloons, the so-called soiled doves offered company for prices that sound crazy today. A quick visit cost anywhere from 25 cents to $1, depending on the place. The women working in those spots came from hard situations. A lot of them were widows, orphans, or immigrants with no other way to get by. Life in the saloons was short and brutal. Disease, alcoholism, and violence were just part of the routine. Few made it past 35 in that line of work. The interesting thing is that some of these women built up fortunes and became owners of their own businesses. Mattie Silks in Denver even ran an entire network of establishments, but for most, that dollar paid by the cowboy just meant one more day of surviving in a world that didn't offer many choices for women on their own in the Old West. Number 20. In 1880, a bottle of cheap perfume cost about 25 cents at general stores in the Old West. That means with a single dollar, you could take 4 bottles home. But don't think of fancy perfumes like the ones that came from France. These were simple liquids, often made with alcohol, mixed with questionable quality floral oils. The real use wasn't to seduce anyone. In a time when bathing was a luxury and people worked under the hot sun all day, these perfumes were used to cover up body odor that nobody could stand. Cowboys, miners, and even saloon owners bought these bottles as a basic necessity. Women in brothels were the biggest customers because they needed to keep up a pleasant appearance for clients. And that wraps up these 20 facts that prove something most people don't realize. A simple dollar in the Old West bought everything, from whiskey and ammo to protection and day-to-day survival.